Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of TNCBA's Tips, Tricks, and How-Tos. And as we continue to talk about night fishing, we're going to really talk about locations here in this one. We're going to talk about how things change with the thermocline that's going to form. But Kelsey, we're finally getting to our night tournament swing here. And lots of people are fishing rodeos. Lots of people are fishing night tournaments altogether. It's a great way to beat the heat. Fish bite better at night during this time of year typically.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, it has its little nuances, but you can go out there and catch fish, and you can catch really good fish at this time of year during the nighttime, even though it's so hot. So the first thing we want to think about, guys, is water temperature. As that water temperature starts creeping up into the 80s and stuff, these fish have gotten done spawning. They're starting to move back out. They're not up here in the major flats or in the bays in the backs of these creeks or anywhere.
Starting to sweat just like us.
They're starting to sweat just like us. And when those fish start to move back out, you're going to start to focus on some key areas. And we talked about in our last episode when we were talking about our go-tos at night, those high percentage areas. And what I want to do right now is I'm going to pull up the chart and just talk a little bit about some places that I'm going to look at. And this is Holston here. So I'm going to be focused on channel swings. I'm going to be focused on the main lake. So you've got Friendship here. You've got a really good spawning area in these creeks here and back here in this creek. And these fish are going to start to migrate back out. So as you start that migration back out, you're going to be looking at some of those first steep and deep areas. And we bring it all the time. We're going to bring it up, steep and deep. They want to be near some deep water, but they can move up that bank and they can feed really easy.
Explain as to why they would want to be near those steep and deep areas.
Well, with the steep and deep areas, you're going to be looking at a situation where you can move off into some cooler water. You can move off away from everything. Those steeper areas are going to have areas where they can push the bait up and really trap them and pin them. And the bait's going to be out there near the main channel as well. So not only can they move into some deeper water where it's a little bit cooler, a little bit more oxygen rich, they can also move them up there where they can feed on them and trap them and hunt them down. Because oxygen is the big player this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. We're going to get to the thermocline in a second, but oxygen is going to dictate where these fish spend the majority of their time. So when I look at this creek coming out of Friendship here, again, we have some points, we have some bluffs with some channel swings on them, and those are going to be the places I start to focus. Okay. So as I move out, this last little channel swing right here before you get to this main point coming out to the main is a great bluff, a great little small section that's good to focus on. And again, it's got a steep drop, but you got some ledges as you move down through there, some lay downs, some things for those fish to hang around. And I'm just looking for them to move in and out. Then you follow that main creek or main river channel, and you see where these places where it swings along. You've got great bluffs here. Again, another channel swing, great bluff, same thing here. But focus on those high percentage areas, okay? So if you look at those high percentage areas, you're going to notice that you're going to consistently get bites. Now, could you find some fish pulled up on a flat or something like that, a river rock? You might. But again, the majority of your fish, I'm fishing in high percentage areas during this time of the year. I'm focused on those channel swings. I'm focused on those bluff ends. Okay. And when I say a bluff end, here's what I'm talking about. Okay. And let me pull up a good one here to look at. These bluff ends are going to come out and they're going to form a point. Okay. It might even be a gradual point. It's not going to be a super long point that you might see, but you see here that you have a bluff and that bluff end is here. Okay. Other places that you're going to look at, like we said. Yeah. So there as well. You have it roll out, a bluff comes out here to a good point to fish. So bluff ends, the channel swing where it hits on that bluff, points. Let's move on down here towards Jacobs Creek a little bit. You got some more areas like that. You got a good channel swing come in here, and this is a good bluff all the way around, and then it starts to swing away, and you have a flatter point out here at the end of it as well. You then also have some of these fingers, okay, that have river rock on them that are going to be good places to fish. We talked about a nighttime blade being a really good thing, or a nighttime crankbait. These are some really, really good areas. But again, as you follow these channels and even these smaller swings, you can see here, this is not the main river channel is over here to the right, but you can see here that there's a swing in this, okay, and then it kind of tapers out into a flatter point up here. Okay.
And see, if that was me and I was focusing on that, that would be the kind of, if you were going to fish your flats and things like that, that would be one that I would look at, because it's right there where the current's coming down.
Yeah.
It's hitting it with its full force.
Right.
And it's a place where it would push bait and things like that.
But then here's your steep and deep.
Yep.
Okay.
And it's
like I
close
said,
to the deep
they're
water.
going to move up here on this flat and eat.
Yep.
But they're going to be hanging out near this steep break line right here. You can see how tight those topo lines get. Okay, they're going to be right here near this steep break. They'll move up here and eat, and then they'll slide back out here on this drop or suspend over this deeper water. So it's very important for you to be looking at those lines and paying attention to where that channel's swinging in, or where there's some deep water nearby.
And when it comes to fish, I mean, they're in their eating habits, they're going to follow the path of least resistant.
Yeah. So again, bait's going to be out there, bass are going to be out there, high percentage areas near these main channels, mouths of these creeks. But again, bluffs, channel swings, bluff ends, those tapering points are going to be key areas to focus on. Water temperatures. So at the beginning of the year, we're moving into the spawn, fish are moving up into the shallows. That water temperature starts to warm up. They go through their deal. And then after their post spawn, they typically go to the deepest point they're going to be at. Okay, the bait's going to move out, the bass are going to move out. But what happens in that post spawn time, when they move out really deep, they use up all the oxygen in that area. Okay, and when they use up all of that oxygen, then we start to have them moving back up towards the shallows, and we have kind of a thermocline form here. And what I want to show you is what it looks like on a graph. Okay, and you can see here that you really get a hard line of what looks like some interference on your graph, and a lot of times, even if it's deep enough that there's plenty of water below the thermocline and above, it'll be a line straight across your graph. Okay, and one of the easiest ways to find it is to turn the sensitivity up. Okay, and if you turn the sensitivity up on your 2D, you'll start to see that interference even more so right there in the middle. Now, a thermocline can form at different levels. It may form at 10 to 15 feet or 15 to 20. It really depends on the lake that you're on. I've seen them before in that range of 15 to 20 a lot. But what happens there is that's kind of that middle zone where it's oxygen rich. The hotter the surface temperature gets, that shallow water doesn't have a lot of oxygen in it. But those fish go out way deep and they deplete the oxygen out there, and the oxygen rich areas right there around that thermocline are above it. Okay, so as you saw with that image, a lot of times you're going to see fish hanging out right around that thermocline.
Oh yeah.
So if I see a thermocline forming at, say, 15 to 20 feet, I'm going to focus a lot of my attention with my baits, whether it be dragging something or throwing a spinner bait, at that water depth. So I'm going to be running a lot of 10 to 15 foot of water, and I'm going to fish that area of the water column heavily. I'm not going to focus deeper. Now I might focus shallower, those fish move up, but again, they're going to hang out around that 10 to 15. If that's where the thermocline formed at 15 feet, they're going to hang out about that location on the bank or on the depth range, or I'm going to look at points that are sitting in 10 to 15 foot of water. Whereas on Douglas, like, we went in June, you might move out to 30, almost 40 foot of water to catch some of these bass. This time of year, once the thermocline forms, I'm not going to go out that deep. I'm going to be geared in around a 15 foot range. That's why I said in one of the videos earlier, like on C maps where you can color code your depth ranges, it's really key. You can go in there and color code, and then okay, the thermocline's in that 10 to 15 foot range. That's what I'm going to focus on. But again, pay attention, because as these water temperatures creep up close to 90 and probably into the 90s this year with as hot as it's been, that thermocline is going to start to form, and then that's going to adjust how deep you might be fishing at night. And just keep an eye on that 2D sonar, crank it up a little bit, that sensitivity. I'm not trying to see fish or anything, I just want to see, is there a thermocline forming? And then let that help guide you on what depth range you're going to focus on. So again, this time of year when you're not fishing, we're focused on high percentage areas, bluffs, channel swings, bluff ends, going out to short points, or focus on gradual fingers, gradual points. You're going to be looking for steep and deep. So on that point or on that bluff, I'm going to be looking for where those topographical lines get the closest. Okay, I'm going to look where it breaks off heavy. I'm going to throw up on top of that where it's flat, because they'll move up there to feed, but I want to be near where those break lines are the steepest, and those fish can move back out into some deeper water and get away from any pressure from fishermen, or they can sit out there and suspend and do whatever until the bait's in the right location. So high percentage areas. Then as you start to see a thermocline forming, use that to guide you on how deep you're going to be fishing throughout the lake, because typically the thermocline will form throughout the lake. Okay, so help that guide you. Okay, turn your sensitivity up on your 2D sonar a little bit while you're out there idling around. See where that thermocline is, and then start to locate those areas on the lake that match that depth. And that's going to help you at night be a little bit more efficient and zero in on these fish. So Kelsey, as you're out there fishing, you said you focus in on bluffs a lot.
Oh yeah.
Is there anything about a bluff that you're like, that one makes it special, or that's what makes it special?
Really, when it comes to that, I really like to focus in on the channel swings. That's just one of those things.
Right.
I've noticed that's they have high potential for gathering of fish, congregation.
Yeah. And now when he talks about the channel swing, okay, we're not talking about right in the middle where the channel is on the bank. It's where it either starts to swing away or swing into it.
It's places where the current is going to hit it head on.
Yeah. Makes that first contact or starts to swing away. And the thing is, like, where you have the channel swing in, there's a transition there. And oftentimes, like on the bluff, I don't want it to be just dead straight up and down, typically. Where it starts to come in, where that channel swing happens, you're going to have some ledges. So you're going to have a steeper bank, but as you go down, it's going to flatten out at one spot, or maybe you have just some shell that sticks out a little bit further on there. That small little ledge might be all you need. So with those channel swings and finding those ledges, it's key. So guys, we hope that this helps you out as you start to think about your nighttime approach and you're out there fishing. Focus in on those high percentage areas. Get you some bites. Go back and watch our episode from our go-tos at night. And then again, as we continue to make it further into this summer, be thinking about that thermocline. We're going to be taking us a little hiatus here as we get in the summertime, and we're traveling and school's kicking back up for me. But we'll start to kick up these how-tos again as we get into the fall and talk about this migration back into the creeks, and talk about the bait starting to school back up and really become a heavy feed as we head into those winter months and into those fall months. So we'll be back with you, but we'll still be doing our pre and post shows for the tournaments that we got coming up. We'll be doing our fantasy fishing podcast stuff, so be sure to stick with us. Check us out. Go check out the website. Hit us up on Facebook. Hit us up on YouTube. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, guys. But we'll see you all later on this fall, guys.
Take care.